You've been told you can catch up on sleep over the weekend. Sleep in on Saturday, stay in bed on Sunday, get back to baseline. I need you to hear this clearly because this single belief is quietly dismantling your brain, your metabolism, and your life expectancy without you ever feeling the full weight of what it's costing you. That belief is wrong. Not slightly wrong, not, well, it helps a little wrong, fundamentally, mechanistically, neurologically wrong. And the people who figure this out, not through discipline, not through willpower, but through understanding exactly what's happening inside their brain during sleep, are operating in a completely different performance category from everyone around them. Today, I'm going to show you what sleep debt actually is at the cellular level, why weekend recovery sleep is a myth that's making the problem worse, and the precise 7-night reset protocol that erases accumulated sleep debt in a way that actually registers in your neurobiology. Not tips, not habits, a protocol with a mechanism. Stay with me to the end because what I'm covering in the final section is the piece that almost nobody in health content is talking about. It's the reason the same person can sleep 8 hours and still wake up cognitively compromised, and once you understand it, you'll never look at your sleep the same way. At Vitawave, we operate from one core belief. Health is not a destination, it's a rhythm you learn to ride. We don't just treat symptoms, we decode your biological waves to turn back the clock from the inside out. And the rhythm we're decoding today is the most fundamental one in your entire biology, your sleep architecture. Let me start with something that should change the way you understand your own tiredness. Most people think about sleep in terms of quantity. Hours in, hours out. 7 hours good, 5 hours bad, 8 hours ideal. And the logic from there is simple. If you're short on hours, you add them back over the weekend and the deficit disappears. But that's not how sleep debt works biologically. Sleep debt is not a bank account. It is a biological wound, and wounds don't heal just because you lie still for longer. Here's what's actually happening when you're undersleep even by 90 minutes for a few consecutive nights. Your glymphatic system, the brain's waste clearance network, operates almost exclusively during deep sleep. During the slow wave stages of your sleep cycle, your brain cells actually shrink by about 60%. The space that opens up allows cerebrospinal fluid to flush through and clear out metabolic waste products, including amyloid beta plaques and tau proteins. These are the same proteins that accumulate in Alzheimer's disease. Every night you undersleep, your brain gets less of that clearance window. The waste accumulates, the inflammatory load in your brain tissue rises, your synaptic connections become less precise, your signal-to-noise ratio, the biological ratio that determines how clearly and quickly you can think, degrades. And here's the part that makes the weekend catch-up myth so dangerous. A 2019 study published in Current Biology followed adults across 3 groups. One group sleeping under 6 hours on weekdays with no weekend recovery. One group sleeping under 6 hours on weekdays with weekend recovery sleep, and a control group maintaining 9 hours throughout. Researchers measured caloric intake, metabolic markers, and cognitive function. The group that recovered sleep over the weekend did not recover their cognitive function to baseline. They did reduce some of their metabolic disruption temporarily, but their caloric intake actually increased during the recovery period. Their circadian rhythm shifted later, making Monday morning waking harder. And within 2 days of returning to the short sleep weekday pattern, every metric was worse than the week before. Not the same, worse. Weekend recovery sleep doesn't pay back the debt. It masks it briefly, then accelerates it. You wake up on Monday feeling rested. Your brain is still running a deficit that's now slightly larger than before the weekend. This is the compound interest of sleep debt, and it runs in the wrong direction. I want to go deeper on what's actually being lost when you're in chronic short sleep, because most people think the cost is just feeling tired. The cost is not feeling tired. The tiredness is the signal. The damage is happening underneath it. The first thing to go is your prefrontal cortex's ability to override impulse. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for judgment, long-term thinking, and emotional regulation, is the most sensitive structure in your entire brain to sleep deprivation. It does not degrade evenly. It degrades first, fastest, and most dramatically. A study at the University of Washington showed that just 17 hours without sleep, prefrontal function declined to a level equivalent to a blood alcohol content of 0.05%. After 24 hours, it matched 0.1%, legally drunk by most international standards. But here's what makes this genuinely alarming. When you're drunk, you feel impaired. You know something is wrong. You compensate.
When you're sleep-deprived, you don't feel impaired in the same way. Your subjective sense of functioning remains relatively intact even as your actual performance collapses. Research participants consistently rate their own performance as adequate while external measures show significant degradation. You think you're fine, and that conviction that you're handling it is itself a symptom of the impairment. The second casualty is your amygdala reactivity. The amygdala is your brain's threat detection and emotional response center. Under normal sleep, the prefrontal cortex maintains an inhibitory connection to the amygdala. It acts as a brake on your emotional reactions, helping you assess whether something is actually threatening before you respond to it. Sleep deprivation breaks that connection. In a landmark study by Matthew Walker's lab at UC Berkeley, sleep-deprived participants showed a 60% greater amygdala reactivity to emotionally negative stimuli compared to well-rested participants. The prefrontal brake was offline. The emotional response was unmodulated. This is why you snap at people when you're tired, why small frustrations feel disproportionately large, why decisions feel harder and interactions feel more fraught. You are not overreacting. Your brain is literally running without its regulation system. The third casualty, and this is the one that gets almost no coverage in performance content, is your synaptic homeostasis. During wakefulness, your synaptic connections strengthen. Every experience, every conversation, every task you complete increases the weight of the neural connections involved. By the end of a long day, your brain is essentially overloaded, every synapse firing at maximum sensitivity. Deep sleep is when synaptic pruning occurs. Unnecessary or weak connections are reduced. Important, well-used connections are selectively preserved and strengthened. This is how long-term memory consolidation works, not through adding information, but through selective subtraction of noise. When you don't get adequate deep sleep, the pruning doesn't complete. You wake up with the brain carrying the full synaptic load of the previous day, plus the beginning of a new one.
The signal-to-noise ratio degrades, learning becomes harder, memory retrieval slows, creative insight, which depends on the brain making unexpected connections between distant concepts, becomes statistically less likely. Chronic sleep debt is not chronic tiredness. It is chronic neurological compromise. Now let me address the question I get more than almost any other. What is the minimum effective dose of sleep? What do high performers actually need? And I want to give you the honest answer, not the aspirational one. You've seen the claims. Elon Musk says he functions on 6 hours. Various CEOs talk about 4 or 5 hours with pride, as though efficiency in sleep reflects efficiency in life. The actual science is this. Approximately 3% of the population carries a gene variant, a mutation in the DEC2 gene that allows them to function fully on 6 hours or less. Matthew Walker refers to these people as short sleepers. They are genuinely rare. They are not made by discipline. They are not made by practice. They are genetically distinct. The other 97% of human beings require 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night for full neurological function. Not 7 to 9 hours in bed, 7 to 9 hours of actual sleep. When people tell you they're fine on 6 hours, they are almost certainly in one of two situations. Either they are one of the genuine 3%, and they genuinely don't know this because they've never experienced the alternative. Or, and this is the more common case, they have been sleep-deprived long enough that they've lost the subjective experience of what feeling fully rested actually means. They have recalibrated their baseline to compromised. They think that's what alert feels like. The real danger in the high-performer culture of I sleep less, I do more is not just the individual damage, it's the social contagion, the normalization of running at 70% neurological capacity as a badge of productivity. The quiet epidemic of executive decision-making made by prefrontal cortexes running on insufficient maintenance. We are collectively making consequential decisions in organizations, in families, in governments with brains that are measurably impaired. And we call it hustle. So what do you actually do?
Not vague advice, not create a bedtime routine and limit screens before sleep. You've heard that. Let me give you the protocol. This is the 7-night biological sleep reset, built on the mechanisms we've established, not on habit stacking. The foundation principle is this: you are not trying to force sleep. You are trying to rebuild the biological conditions under which sleep occurs naturally and deeply. There's a difference, and the difference matters enormously for whether this works. The first pillar is adenosine management. Adenosine is the neurochemical that builds up in your brain throughout the day, creating what scientists call sleep pressure. It is the biological reason you get sleepy as the day progresses. Caffeine works by blocking adenosine receptors. It doesn't eliminate the adenosine itself. It just prevents you from feeling its accumulation. When caffeine wears off, the adenosine that has been building undetected floods your receptors at once. That is the coffee crash. During the 7-night reset, your caffeine cutoff is 1 p.m., not because of a sleep hygiene rule, because caffeine has a half-life of 5 to 7 hours in the average adult. A coffee at 3 p.m. means half of its adenosine blocking effect is still active at 8 or 9 p.m., directly reducing your ability to build sufficient sleep pressure by bedtime. Without adequate sleep pressure, you cannot enter deep slow-wave sleep efficiently. You sleep lightly. You wake easily. The glymphatic clearance is incomplete. 1 p.m. for 7 days. The second pillar is thermal manipulation. Your core body temperature must drop by approximately 1 to 2 degrees Celsius to initiate sleep onset. This is not a preference, it is a physiological requirement. The reason most people struggle to fall asleep in warm environments isn't comfort, it's biology. During the reset, your sleep environment temperature should be between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit, 18 to 20 degrees Celsius. This range has been consistently identified in sleep research as the optimal zone for deep sleep induction. 45 minutes before your target sleep time, take a warm shower or bath. This sounds counterintuitive. You want to cool the body, so why add heat? Because the warming of your skin surface causes your body to pump blood to the periphery, your hands, your feet, your face, which rapidly dissipates core body heat. When you get out of the warm shower, your core temperature drops sharply. That drop is the biological trigger your brain uses to initiate sleep onset. This single technique has been shown to reduce sleep onset time by 36% in clinical testing, not 5%, 36%. The third pillar is light discipline. Your suprachiasmatic nucleus, the master clock in your hypothalamus, sets your entire circadian rhythm based on light input to your retinas. Specifically, it uses the wavelength and intensity of light to determine what time of day it is and calibrate melatonin release accordingly. Blue light wavelengths, the dominant spectrum of LED screens, smartphones, tablets, and overhead lighting, suppress melatonin production directly and significantly. A study from Harvard Medical School demonstrated that exposure to blue-enriched light in the 2 hours before sleep delayed melatonin onset by up to 3 hours compared to dim light exposure. 3 hours of melatonin delay means your biological sleep initiation is pushed back by 3 hours, regardless of when you're lying in bed. You're not just missing sleep, you are shifting your entire circadian phase. During the reset, no overhead LED lighting after 9 p.m. Use warm incandescent bulbs or candlelight equivalent. If you're going to use a screen, use the night mode setting, but understand that night mode reduces, it does not eliminate, blue light exposure. Sunrise in the morning and blue light avoidance at night are not suggestions. They are the two primary levers your circadian system runs on. This is hardware-level chronobiology. The fourth pillar is sleep architecture protection. Most sleep protocols focus on falling asleep. I want to spend a moment on staying asleep because the architecture of your sleep across the full night is where the real neurological work happens. The first half of your sleep night is dominated by slow-wave deep sleep, the glymphatic clearance and synaptic pruning window. The second half is dominated by REM sleep, memory consolidation, emotional processing, and the creative integration of experience. Both matter. Neither can replace the other. Alcohol disrupts the second half almost completely. Even moderate alcohol, 2 drinks, suppresses REM sleep significantly in the second half of the night. People who drink in the evening often fall asleep easily and sleep through the night by the clock, but they're missing the REM they need. They wake feeling physically rested, but emotionally flat and cognitively slow. They attribute this to aging or stress or not being a morning person. It is the alcohol. During the 7-night reset, no alcohol, not reduction, elimination for 7 nights.
The difference in dream vividness, morning cognitive clarity, and emotional stability you will experience by night 4 will tell you more than I can explain in this video. The 5th pillar is the morning anchor. Your sleep is not fixed only by what you do at night. It is equally fixed by when your circadian clock anchors the beginning of its daily cycle, and that anchor is set by morning light. Within 30 minutes of waking every day of the reset, you get outside for natural light exposure. Even on overcast days, outdoor light intensity is 10 to 50 times greater than indoor lighting. Your photoreceptors need that intensity to accurately calibrate your clock. The earlier and brighter your morning light exposure, the earlier and more consistent your melatonin onset will be that evening. You are setting a countdown timer every morning. The timer runs 15 to 16 hours and lands you at natural sleep. Within 3 days of the reset, most people notice their sleepiness arriving more naturally and consistently in the evening. They're not forcing it with melatonin supplements or white noise machines. Their biology is running on schedule because they gave it the signal it was designed to receive. By night 7, something shifts, not just in how you feel in the morning, though that changes significantly, in how you operate throughout the day. The decisions feel cleaner, the conversations feel more present, the emotional reactions are proportionate again. The 2 p.m. wall that used to require caffeine to survive either softens significantly or disappears. This is not placebo. This is your prefrontal cortex reestablishing its regulatory connection to your limbic system. This is your amygdala calming because the brake is back online. This is synaptic noise clearing because the pruning ran its full cycle. You are not a different person. You are the version of yourself that was always underneath the deficit, finally given the conditions to come through. And here's where the long-term architecture matters. The reset is the baseline. The system is what maintains it. After the 7-night protocol, the single most powerful thing you can do is protect one variable above everything else: consistent wake time. Not consistent bedtime, wake time. Your circadian clock anchors on when you rise, not when you lie down. A consistent morning wake time, even on weekends, even after a late night, keeps your circadian rhythm stable and your sleep pressure accumulating at the right rate. It is the one lever that has the greatest downstream effect on every other element of your sleep quality. This is why sleeping in on weekends breaks the cycle. It shifts your clock later. Monday morning wake-up becomes harder. Sleep onset on Sunday night becomes later. The deficit reopens. One consistent wake time every day within a 30-minute window. That single variable, protected over weeks and months, is worth more to your neurological function than any supplement, any device, any evening routine. Before the next video, I have one question for you. When you wake up in the morning, and I mean the moment before you even check your phone, the moment before you put your feet on the floor, do you feel restored, or do you feel like sleep was something that happened to you rather than something that fully did its job? Drop it in the comments, restored or robbed, because your answer tells me exactly which video to build next. If you're not subscribed, do it now and hit the bell, because what's coming in the next video is the piece of this conversation that will actually separate you from people who know about sleep and people who have mastered it. I'm going to show you how to use your own heart rate variability data to track whether your sleep is actually restoring you, not based on how you feel, but based on what your nervous system is measurably doing while you're unconscious. That video goes live this week. And one more thing before I go. If someone in your life is grinding on 4 or 5 hours and wearing it like armor, send this to them. Not to argue, not to lecture, just because they deserve to know what it's actually costing them. At Vitawave, we don't just treat symptoms, we decode your biological waves to turn back the clock from the inside out. I'm Dr. Elias Site. I'll see you in the next wave.